Hello everybody, this is Chris Bird or MonkeyDude1313, and this is a complete master set of Platinum Base back from 2009, 17 years ago. You may be wondering why we have Ponchos, Charizard Binder, and some random Crown Zenith cards here. Don't you worry, we will get there when we get there, so let's quickly move those off to the side. And before we begin, I would like to say that we are now just about 97% complete with collecting all English Pokemon cards released to date. Shadowless base set first edition all the way through until Phantasmal Flames and the Mega Evolution promos. And we are poised to complete the master sets for the sets coming out in the upcoming months. This is Platinum. This came out right in the middle of the period where neither me nor my partner were collecting Pokemon. So, a lot of these cards are fairly new to us. Not new as in like a week or two old, but new as in we were not around the Pokemon scene when these were released. I stopped about 7 sets before this, right at the end of Gen 3, and I only picked up Pokemon TCG again a little bit towards the beginning of Black and White. So all of Diamond and Pearl, all of Platinum, and all of Heart Gold Soul Silver, which I think was about 20 sets, I missed entirely. So a lot of these cards are brand new, and I absolutely love them for that. Because it is not easy these days, aside from brand new sets, for me to find novel cards in the hobby. So let's pull out each of the holos from this set and take a nice gander at them. These all feature the Cosmos holo pattern, and they feature some absolutely fantastic artworks from their respective artists, and I would love to get into a discussion about those in just a little bit. The second card in the set is a Blastoise. Fantastic art here. You can tell that there's really no hard black outline on this Pokemon, so it is really like shaded into the background, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to tell where the Pokemon ends and the background starts, but that is part of the appeal. This Blaziken has a little bit more definition. As you can tell, there's a little bit more of a solid gray outline. You can tell the difference between the legs here, for example, and up here you can see a lot more definition between the Pokemon and the background. Very neat art style changes. Alright, next up is the Delcatty. Beautiful Delcatty. Delcatty is one of my top 100 Pokemon, which is actually meaningful because that's top 10%. You know, we have 1,000 and some odd Pokemon now. I think it's 1,025 or more, and being top 10% actually means something when you're at that scale. This set, interestingly, has 3 Dialga holos and only 1 Palkia holo. I really hope the Gen 4 and 5 sets around this one feature Palkia more than Dialga just to make up for this. But having 3 Dialga cards in a row in the holos, and as we'll see in a little bit, only 1 Palkia feels a little bit funky. Alright, so this Dialga is the first reason we had all of that other random stuff at the beginning of this video, with the Ponchos and the Charizard Binder, etc. But let's get through a few more of these holos before I get into that. But, you know, just kind of think about the art style on this card. Think about the hard black outlines on a lot of this, and like the real interaction with the background, despite the Pokemon feeling like it's fairly separate from the background due to its outlines. And an immediate departure from what I was just talking about is the third Dialga, this time a Team Galactic Dialga with Cyrus's head down there. This Pokemon looks like it's almost merged into the background in terms of art style. Very cool lightning strikes up here, but the black outlines really do almost nothing for this card because there basically aren't any. And you really need to look, especially in places like back here, to decide when the Pokemon ends and when the background begins. Alright, back with this Gardevoir, we are back to similar to this previous Dialga we were just talking about, where now it's a very clear illustration. Fairly solid black lines differentiating this Pokemon from the background. Next up, this Giratina follows the exact same rules as that Gardevoir does, where you can tell the difference between every leg, you can tell the difference between the Pokemon in the background very, very easily. You still get a very nice 2D/3D representation of the Pokemon, but you also do get a very clear definition between that and the background. And we will get into why that is interesting in just a moment. So this was the first set of 9 holos from this set, and in these sets, all of the holos were very relevant in terms of interest and value and pull interest and enjoyment, but there's also all of the fancy stuff at the end, which we will get to in a moment. So this is the second of the holo reveals here, and we will see that there are 17 total holos, and of course we have all of them, given that it is a master set. So we'll pull the second Giratina. This time it is not the one with legs. This is the worm form of the Giratina. Beautiful. Amazing artwork here. And I really like that it's in front of the moon. Adds a lot of character to that. All right, and this Manectric is where we're going to finally get into the interesting stuff. So again, this time this is the fourth one. Not only is there a really cool swirl right there, let's make sure you guys can see that swirl, but also the Pokemon is very distinct from the background, despite it creating all this electricity that it is being kind of blocked off from using those outlines. And the reason I bring this up is because all of these cards have been drawn by Kouki Saito, fantastic artist who has been around all the way since Aquapolis, I believe, maybe Expedition, I'm not exactly sure, but they have been doing Pokemon illustrations since then, and they are still going strong now. And so with this Manectric, I'm going to pause the master set for just a moment, and I'm going to bring up some cards that you guys may already know. This is the Crown Zenith set of 9 illustrations that when you don't organize them by binder number, but instead you organize them by artwork, you can see that all of these Pokemon fit together to make one scene. And all of these were illustrated by the exact same artist, Kouki Saito. I absolutely love this spread. I think this is fantastic, and I really love that within sets, there can be subsets of cards that can be really fun to collect and display in a way other than just these Pokemon go together because they evolve, or these Pokemon go together because they're all Pikachu. You know, this feels like a relatively random set of Pokemon, but they all coexist in a very nice artwork theme, and I really appreciate that. On the other side of this page, quick flip over, we will see some more examples of this illustrator's art. So very recently from Paldea Vault, we got the Sprigatito, Florgato, and Meowscarada EX special illustration rare. All of these, same artist as this Manectric here. Similarly, this Rayquaza from EX Emerald. Let me pull this one out. This is an oldie but a goodie. Absolutely beautiful Gen 3 artwork, and you can still see the very strong black outlines here, and just overall fantastic artwork. Espeon VMAX, also by the same artist from Fusion Strike. We get a little fire energy to segue our way into the Charizard binder. And then another example of their art is these Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon Delta Species arts. Beautiful. I love these cards. I love this artist. This is one of my favorite artists. All right, so we'll put this a little bit over to the side. And because of that fire energy, let's dive in to the Charizard binder with our fancy Dragonite French First Edition bookmark. All right, so why this page? Well, one of their first arts. Of course, since multiple cards came out in the same set, we don't know exactly which one is the first, but one of this artist's, Kouki Saito's art, is the Crystal Charizard. One of the rarest and most valuable cards in the entire TCG, and this illustrator made this art. Since I'm a massive Charizard collector, I absolutely love the artists that are allowed to and then do a good job of illustrating Charizard. So, very happy to be able to show off this artist in this way. Similarly, since we just saw the deltas, we can flip one page over here to both of the the Delta Charizards, and this art is also done by Kouki Saito. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's always fun to see how a specific artist's style changes over time, and when it doesn't change, what elements they choose to keep and which elements they choose to remove or change. And so it's been very interesting to watch them evolve all the way from that Crystal Charizard back in Skyridge all the way to modern, like we saw with that Espeon VMAX. Okay, so why are the ponchos out? Exact same reason. These ponchos are also by Kouki Saito. Every single poncho, full art that is, and I think all of the half arts, including the Eevee half art ponchos, are illustrated by this same illustrator. So if we look down here, Kouki Saito. Very nice. Very, very nice. And so very cool to see all of these very interesting cards that people are very excited to have. And, it's very cool to see those. And similarly, this Radiant Charizard. I got this guy graded on my own for my own PC, and same artist. Exactly same artist. And no surprise that I've always loved the artwork on this, and this is one of the few cards I chose to grade purely for PC. No intention on increasing value or selling or anything, and no surprise that it is by one of my favorite artists. Beautiful. Okay, so with that few minute aside out of the way, we can get back to the main set. So, like I had said before, this set only has one holo Palkia, and the other three were Dialgas, 2 Dialgas and a Dialga G for Team Galactic. This Palkia, similar, Palkia G for Team Galactic with Cyrus there. Very interesting art style, and, Palkia is kind of the second sibling in this regard. Alright, next up, Rampardos. Another fantastic artwork, another Pokemon that most people know of from Pokemon Go because it finally dethroned Tyranitar in a lot of raid battle scenarios. Very neat. 2 Shaman forms. First we have the land form Shaman here. Cute little hedgehog. Who doesn't love Shaman in this form? Very cute, very adorable. And the other one, the wind form, air form, flying form, whatever you want to call it. This Shaman is also quite cute in this artwork. Alright, now we're out to the last 2. Let's do one of the least popular Pokemon, Slacking, who your dad Norman has 2 of and really bothered you with back in Gen 3. Wonderful, wonderful memories, he says slightly sarcastically. And then on the flip side of popularity, we have Weavile here. Weavile is way on the higher end of popularity, up there with Scizor and a few of the other more edgy type Pokemon. Wonderful art. I really like how the Cosmos Holos, on this card specifically, feel like stars in the night sky rather than simply a holo pattern on a card. Really feels like it works in well with the art. Okay, so it's been 12 minutes. We're not going to pull out every single card in this set. So now that we're at the non-holos, we can start to flip through a little bit more quickly. But you can see we have some appearances by Tomokazu Kamiya, another artist that a lot of people really enjoy. He's really well known for a primitivist art style where Pokemon are kind of expressed in a way that aren't their typical. It's not very close to Ken Sugimori at all. He stretches and skews a lot of dimensions to really add a lot of character to the cards. So nice to see some art from an artist like that in these older sets. Dabbing Ludicolo, one of the best Ludicolo arts. Absolutely love Dabbing Ludicolo. This Carnivine, fun fact, is done by Mitsuhiro Arita, who did the base set Charizard. And if you go and look through the card arts that he has done over time, you will see an interesting and quite significant change in his art style over time. However, he always sticks to his guns. He always has a base level, his art style that he works with. He also did have a period where he was trying to learn 3D modeling, it seems, on computer. And, up to you if you like those ones or not, but these kinds of more hand-drawn styles have been absolutely fantastic. All right, moving on to the next pages here, we see a lot of really interesting and not often appreciated art from Gen 4 here. Not a lot of people collected during this time. I like to call it the Forgotten Era, because I think this is when Pokemon was probably at its least popular. It had a huge spike at the very beginning, went really, really strong, and it started to dwindle out for Gen 4. And so a lot of these cards, not only are they not worth much because people aren't super excited for them, but also a lot of people don't even remember seeing them or having them or opening packs for these cards. And of course, popularity started picking up significantly back in the end of Black-White and the beginning of Sun-Moon. So, nice Yukimori art here. We got a couple of Yukimori arts in this set, but a lot of Gen 4 sets had a lot of Yukimori influence. Here's another Tomokazu Kamiya. This Psyduck looked like he is an egg that has been kind of split on the ground here. Very flat, very pancake-like, but that is what adds a lot to the charm. And similarly to this Psyduck, this Poochyena, same artist. He is just flopped out, full pancake on the sidewalk next to some stairs. Beautiful art. Beautiful art. All right, so we're now in the trainers, and the trainers, really, the best part about the trainers in a lot of these sets, unless you played during the time in which you'll have a very different feeling for these, The trainers indicate the grand reveal of the set. And so we will take a flip into the grand reveal of Platinum Base. These are all the fancy end of set cards that you can collect if you were to go and spend a significant amount of money on a singular booster pack of this set. I wouldn't recommend it. So we got 6 level X's here. We got 3 secret rares, which have a specific theming. If you know, you know. We'll get to that. And then some reverse shiny Pokemon here that are not technically part of the set numbering itself. But let's start with Dialga G, level X. Since it's G, like I mentioned before, Team Cyrus, Team Galactic with Cyrus as the leader. Very cool artwork here. Very cool theming. I was really happy when this gen and similar had actual trainer or team styles of cards like they did back in Gym Heroes and Gym Challenge. Drapion V here, kind of the outlier in this group. Not really aligned with anything similar, but he was one of the more popular Pokemon from this time, just because he was very interesting. He's like a mix between a scorpion and a horse, and his pre-evolution was literally a wheel. And so, you know, there's a lot of fun inspiration there. Next up, Giratina, level X. One of the more popular level X's from this set. Absolutely fantastic artwork. And this artwork for this Giratina is shared by both this shaman and this shaman. So all the 2 shamans and the Giratina had the same art. Palkia and Dialga had their own same artist. And then Drapion level X had its own artist on its own. Palkia G level X, another beautiful art. This is an example of the 3D style that Mitsuhiro Arita was trying at the time, and you can see from when he first started until now he's gotten significantly better, but a lot of people really appreciate him for more of the hand-drawn style that we see in cards like the Charizard and that Carnivine. Alright, Shaman level X Landform, Hedgehog form, however you like to call it. Absolutely beautiful card art here. Not common that you're going to see the Hedgehog form looking any amount of aggressive or feisty. Usually they draw this one always looking happy, serene, cute, sleepy, and then they draw this form looking aggressive, flying around, angry. And so, of course, being level X, they're all aggressive because that's kind of like their final evolution past their normal evolution. And so they gotta be ready for battle. Alright, so the theming on these. These guys are secret rares in the set. I'll pull out the Electabuzz first. First off, that Cosmos Holo is extremely hard to see. You can really only see it over here and in the Lightning Bolt on the right, but you'll just have to trust me when I say that everything behind the Electabuzz is holo here. But why did they choose to feature this Electabuzz, this Hitmonchan, and the following Scyther as their secret rares? Well, if you were around at the time, or you have any knowledge of Pokemon TCG play history, you'll know that these Pokemon were some of the most influential Pokemon in shaping literally the first couple of metas for the Pokemon TCG. So both the Electabuzz and Hitmonchan I just showed you came out of Base 1, and this Scyther came out of Jungle all the way from the beginning of Pokemon, and they were the deck to beat. Haymaker had many variations, and the cornerstone of these decks was a couple of very powerful basic Pokemon that every other deck needed to have an answer to, or else. Nowadays, 1 energy for 20 damage means nothing. Who cares? Maybe if it was 1 energy for 80, maybe it would matter. But these Pokemon absolutely ruled the roost back in the day, and so many decks went out of their way to try and stop them. But these were the quintessential Haymaker Pokemon at the time. These shinies, on the other hand, these were relatively unassuming, and you could pull them from the reverse slot in these packs, and they have a similar, but not exactly the same, Pokemon in the set. So there is a Lotad, Swablu, and Vulpix in the set itself that you can get in both normal and reverse. Usually they don't have the same abilities and attacks, but the important part about this one is that it's shiny. So this is a shiny Lotad picture, but also the number on the bottom is SH4. There's a series of 12 total of these shiny Pokemon, and this was the second set in the Gen 4 era to have shiny Pokemon. Beautiful. I love these cards. I love the idea of not knowing they exist, opening packs, and then finding in your reverse slot that you actually got something way more valuable than you expected. I love that idea. I wish I would have opened packs at this time because I would have really enjoyed discovering that for the first time while opening a pack, but that's life. I was busy playing StarCraft and solving Rubik's Cubes at the time. All right, this Vulpix, one of the most valuable of these shiny type Pokemon with shiny reverses, and I can see why. You know, relatively popular Pokemon, great art, great posing, and a rare card to boot. All right, so that is the end of the main set. I include these three in the main set even though they are SH4, 5, and 6. I just include them because they feel like they should be part of the main set and not the reverses. But, as I say with every single Master Set video, it's not a Master Set without the reverses. So, let's take a quick flip through the reverses and we will be done with this video. So, all of the same artworks that we just went over, but with the mirror holo reverse pattern. These cards are very difficult to get in a condition that is satisfying. And what I mean by that is relatively small print runs. A lot of these cards were played with back in the time, and the mirror type holo, I call it mirror, I don't know exactly the actual term for it, but the mirror type holo does a fantastic job at showing every single scratch, scuff, dent, and everything on it. So if we take this Ludicolo as an example, looks very nice. One scratch here, that is the only thing your eyes see. When you're looking at this card, it is so difficult to ignore that one scratch. And so getting good quality conditions of these cards is not easy. But it is worth the hunt because when they are nice and clean, they look absolutely gorgeous. So let's slowly flip through these guys, re-enjoy the same art a second time, but also enjoy the vertical lines on the holo pattern here, and we will arrive very quickly at the end of the master set of Platinum Base. All the trainers, and unfortunately for us, there is no reverses of the fancy stuff in the set, so the reverses end with rainbow energy here. Alright, that is Platinum Base. A beautiful set. I was not around in the Pokemon world to collect at this time. I was busy playing StarCraft and solving Rubik's Cubes at competitions. It was a lot of fun and it was great, but I never got to open these packs. And since I am an intelligent human being with a money-conscious mind, I will almost certainly never open a pack of Platinum Base. Because for the cost that you'll get, even if you hit one of the best cards, you're only going to return your value if it PSA 10s, and at that point, why not just buy the PSA 10 if you really care all that much about it? So, as much as I would like to open a pack of these, if someone were to donate it, I would open it in a heartbeat, but I will almost certainly never open a pack of Platinum Base. And so, what of these level X's is your favorite? What type of card from the Gen 4 did you guys enjoy the most? Did you guys open the set at the time? I would be very interested in hearing what you guys have to say about it. And always, thanks for watching.